Hello and welcome back to the channel. First and foremost, I want to say Happy Mother's Day and say thank you to all the mothers out there. You watching, make sure to text your mom. Thank you so much for bringing you into this world. Um, uh, for the actual video, I just want to say that I had this idea for a little bit, but I didn't know when I should release it. Now I'm going to. And basically, before I even started this YouTube channel, which was 2 years ago, in the 2023 draft, I wrote down names that I thought of players that I was like, okay, for each draft class, this person's going to work out. Now, looking over some of them have worked out. Some of them are hoping to break in the third year, and some of them are not very good. And I haven't looked at the other draft players, other drafted players from each draft class of each team. So I'm also going to be looking at them. So, like, from the person that I pick, I'll look at like who I could have potentially picked and see if I could have had like a better option, and see if I had a pretty good hit rate. For the rules, as far as like how I pick people, I couldn't go above 50% of first round picks. I think that's kind of cheating. I also had to have more third round picks than second round picks. So that's just kind of let you know the criteria of like how I had to pick and like how I had to pick and choose who I was going to take. So I'm not just taking like the best player available. So I'm trying to take some risks. So starting out with the Arizona Cardinals, we'll go from A to W basically. So Arizona all the way down to the Washington Commanders. Um, Cardinals. I picked Paris Johnson Jr., the tackle out of Ohio State. Now, I knew he was going to be really stinking good. I mean, I was happy that the Cardinals traded back up to get him to help protect Kyler Murray. And so far, it's been pretty stinking good. I think Paris Johnson Jr. going to his third year, pretty sure he's going to get his fifth-year option picked up after this season. And more than likely is going to get a huge, massive contract probably around his end of his fourth year, beginning of his fifth year. So Paris Johnson Jr. definitely worked out. Let's see who I could have taken. B.J. Ojulari, no. Garrett Williams, no. Michael Wilson had done a pretty good job. And then the last one is like Clayton Tune, who had a really bad game when he was thrown into the fire. Owen Papano, love him, Auburn player. But no, not really any other player that could have possibly been a better option than Paris Johnson Jr. So I say did a pretty good job on that one. Now moving on to the Falcons. So the Atlanta Falcons, I picked Bijan Robinson, running back out of Texas, first round. Now, obviously, I think like Bijan Robinson, I had a higher grade on than Ashton Genty, and you know how much I like Ashton Genty. So like, I was fully confident Bijan Robinson was going to work out, and he absolutely has. I mean, um, it was a weird pick initially because they already had Tyler Algier, but that's a good pairing with him. Both him and Tyler Algier still doing a really good job. Bijan Robinson's one of the more talented backs, especially in the NFC South, but also in the NFL. Young running back that's more than likely going to get paid because he's been good his last couple of years. So I think I hit on that. Let's see who I could have taken. Matthew Bergeron from Syracuse is a guy that I really like to. Thought about getting him. Really upset that the Falcons picked him above the Panthers because we got Jonathan Mingo, which I'll talk about a little bit. Zach Harrison, no. Clark Phillips the third, okay, but no, not really any other potential players that like I could pick for the Atlanta Falcons that would have been better than Bijan Robinson. Now moving on to the Ravens, so the Baltimore Ravens. So I picked Zay Flowers, wide receiver out of Boston College, the first round. Now Zay Flowers is my top wide receiver, so obviously I'm going to pick him. I will talk about it a little bit. I was not a very big Quentin Johnston fan. I was surprised that he was taken in the first round. But Zay Flowers is my top guy. Absolutely explosive and has been dynamic for the Baltimore Ravens offense. That I mean, you saw especially with Todd Golden last year, really broke out. I think he had his first Pro Bowl, the first Pro Bowl wide receiver for the Ravens, which is still kind of crazy. So I'd say a hit on that. And then who I could have possibly taken besides him, Trenton Simpson, who hasn't been terrible, but it's not been very good. Um, Not really anybody else outside of like Andrew Voorhees, who's going to get his first opportunity to be able to play. So who knows? Maybe he might be good for the Baltimore Ravens. but no really other player that I probably could have taken. Now moving on to the Buffalo Bills. Now the Buffalo Bills, I had as where I love this guard, Osiris Torrance out of Florida. He's in the second round, and he just like this massive human being. I think it was like what 300 and like I want to say 340 pounds, but just absolutely massive human being, massive people mover. That I was like, okay, back then 2 or 3 years ago, well, 2 years ago at this point, the Buffalo Bills needed to revamp their offensive line. They need a lot more help, especially the interior. And Osiris Torrance has been a huge, huge factor in the Buffalo Bills getting back their offensive line, who's was really good last year. I mean, I think they had, I think they only gave it like 13 sacks or something like that, something like that. But I mean, it also helps that Josh Allen's playing amazing. But Osiris Torrance is another one of those prospects that helped revamp the offensive line that I'm really excited that he worked out too. So going into year three, more than likely he's going to be looking at trying to get like a contract extension before he hits his fourth year. But he's worked out really well. See who else I probably could have taken. I couldn't take Dalton Kincaid, but like I said, I really like Osiris Torrance. Dorian Williams at Tulane would have been a good option too. He's a more developmental guy. And then besides that, there's not really anybody else that I probably could have taken. Now moving on to my Carolina Panthers. So there was only one option for me in this draft to take, and that was going to be Bryce Young. I was super duper high on Bryce Young coming in. I had Bryce Young as 1A, and I had CJ Stroud as 1B. I really started to grow to like CJ Stroud. At first, I didn't. I was like not very confident, but then after the Georgia game, I started looking more into like the actual games, and I was like, "There's something there. It can be pulled out. It's just like, sometimes the decision making wasn't the best." And so like that's the reason why I had Bryce above him, because I loved Bryce's decision making, his in the clutch. Like I felt really confident in that. And so far in the rookie year did not look so good, but after a while he got under Dave Canales, and he was able to revamp this season. So we're hoping that he takes another step in third year. So it's still, I will say it's a hit. I'll say it's a hit because I feel pretty confident he's going to go. He'd be good this year, but there's still that like some people still have some doubt because we still have to make sure it's a full season of Bryce Young playing at where he was the back half of the season. So I'm going to say it's a hit, but I picked Bryce Young, quarterback from Bama in the first round, and I already know before even looking, I already know that the rest of the draft class was not very good. So I'm just going to list who we also took. Jonathan Mingo, no longer on the team, at pick 39. DJ Johnson, who's might get cut this season. Charon Zavala, who has been okay, but not the best in the fourth. And then Jamie Robinson, who is, I believe, no longer on the team either. So I think I hit on taking Bryce Young. So moving on from that awful draft, anyways, moving on. Now we go to Chicago Bears. So the Chicago Bears, I actually went a little bit of a risk that has panned out so far. Not that I didn't like Darnell Wright, and I'll talk about that a little bit, but I felt very confident in a backup running back from Texas, and that is Roschon Johnson, who got taken in the fourth. Now, Roschon Johnson, I think it shows even more confidence that the Bears did not take a running back in their first couple of picks. So Roschon Johnson with Swift, and Roschon Johnson has been a third down running back. Hey, shout out to Dobie. I know you love Roschon Johnson as well. I feel like it's still like a developmental role. I think in that third year, hopefully this year, he breaks out. I think he's way more dynamic than Devontae Smith in my eyes. So there's a chance that he could push for starting reps, especially new regime. So I think I hit on that. I'll say that it's still up for debate, but I think that I hit on Roschon Johnson, especially going into the fourth round, and him still having a pretty good a pretty good career so far in his first 2 years. Now, who else could I picked? There's Darnell Wright, who, like I said, right tackle out of Tennessee. I liked him, but in the case of like my rules that I had, I didn't want to keep on picking first round picks, so I decided I'm going to go a little bit riskier. Javon Dexter from Florida, liked him too. He was more of just like a to me a little more like a pass rushing defense tackle, and so far he's been pretty good for Chicago. Tyreek Stevenson, who you got in the Panthers trade, obviously he has had some ups and downs. So it's like, yeah, Zach Pickens, South Carolina, Roshan Johnson, Tyler Scott, Noah Sewell. Noah Sewell was a player that I liked initially, and then I just fell out of love with. I remember I thought he was going to be a first round pick in his junior year, and then I just fell out of love with him. I was like, actually no, I don't know what I saw. Um, and then yeah, that's pretty much it for the Chicago Bears. If I'm being honest. Um, Now moving on to Cincinnati Bengals. Now Cincinnati Bengals, I took another risk on a running back, and that was Chase Brown out of Illinois. And he was a fifth round pick? Yeah, fifth round pick. I remember in that 2023 class there was the twin. I think they're twins. It was Chase Brown and Sidney Brown, and I was like, I think both of them are solid, but I like Chase Brown a little bit better. The only thing with Chase Brown in college was fumbling. Goodness, like that was the one thing that I was like, he's gonna fall. But if he's able to kind of work that out, I feel there's a chance that he could work out in the NFL. Same as the way that I felt with Dylan Sampson this year, where Dylan Sampson also has a falling problem. But if he's able to, get a little bit better, then I think there's a chance that he could work out. So Chase Brown so far in his second year kind of broke out. So I think that did a pretty good job on that one. And looking at it right now, I'm very glad I took Chase Brown because I did not like Miles Murphy, who was a first round pick. DJ Turner, not been the best. Jordan Battle, he's a starter, but that's not saying much. Charlie Jones, good returner. Andrew Yoshivas, I mean, he's been pretty decent, but like nobody that I would have rather taken. So I think I hit that pretty well on the head with Chase Brown. Now moving on to Cleveland Browns. Cleveland Browns, obviously I think this was the first year of the Deshaun Watson trade. I think so. Yeah, because Texas Ravens trade up, which I'll talk about that a little bit. Um, so not many picks, not many high picks. So I ended up taking the highest of their picks, and that was Cedric Tillman, the wide receiver out of Tennessee, in the third. Uh, Out of the two Tennessee wide receivers, I like Cedric Tillman better because I thought that he had more traits that would translate into the NFL between him and John Hyatt, because John Hyatt was just like the speed guy. He was the guy that benefited from that Tennessee system, where like basically it was a stacked wide receiver set, where basically he would not have to worry about press man at all. And I was just like, I don't really like that. I don't like. You're basically trying to find in the NFL. You just have to try to find ways to get him open. Um, and so far, it has not worked for the Giants so far. Well, I don't know why I just said so far twice. But I think overall, Cedric Tillman going into year three, I think that he has a chance of being a good number two paired with Jerry Jeudy. So we'll see how that happens. Let's see who else I could take in. Not a lot, really. Jordan Thompson Robinson, who was I think I had him as like quarterback five. Uh, Dewan Jones, who has not been the best either. So, like, yeah, no, I think I hit pretty well in Cedric Tillman. The more and more that I'm watching, the more and more that I'm looking back on this, I'm remembering, like, some of these draft classes just are not the best. And I think there's going to be one that's coming up that I would not have hit on anybody. So let's keep moving on. The Dallas Cowboys. Now, Dallas Cowboys, this is one of the players that I'm hoping in the third year they break out, because so far it has been a little bit of a disaster. And so I'll say that it's a miss right now, but for the Dallas Cowboys, I picked Mozzie Smith, defensive tackle out of Michigan, in the first round. Now, Mozzie Smith coming out of Michigan, I thought was going to be a really good run defender. And I was like, okay, this is going to work out. Like Dallas Cowboys needs better run defense. Mozzie Smith can take on double teams. Things going to work out. And so far, it hasn't, to put it bluntly. But, sometimes with defense tackles, it takes the year three for them to develop. So I'm hoping that he breaks out in year three. Otherwise, this is going to look like a miss. And I already know there's one other player that I like that I probably should have taken, but I thought it was more of a risk. So essentially, could talk about the Dallas Cowboys draft class. Luke Schoonmaker from tight end from Michigan. He's been solid. DeMar Overshown, I like as a coverage linebacker from Texas. And so far, he had a pretty good season this past season for the Dallas Cowboys. Unfortunately, he did get hurt, and he's going to be gone for the rest of the season. So that sucks. But I did like him, but I was like, that's too much of a risk for me to try to put on, like, oh, I think this guy's going to pan on the NFL. Because linebacker is one of the ones where it's very hard to predict, especially if it's not like a top guy in the class kind of thing. Um, Outside of that, I mean, like, you got what? You got Jalen Brooks, you got Deuce Vaughn. Like I said, not really anybody else who's really. I do remember kind of liking Fajoko, kind of like Ashton Gelati from this year. I kind of thought like, oh, they're a solid. They're a solid bull rusher, and like, but not really worked out. So hopefully, Muzzy Smith breaks out. So then that looks good. I'm like, okay, I predict that he's going to work on the NFL. Now moving on to the Denver Broncos. And the Denver Broncos, I think this was the first year of the Russell Wilson trade, so they didn't have the first round. Because Seattle was able to get, that's right. Seattle had 2 first-round picks. So for the Broncos, I took a little bit of risk, and so far it's been good. Now, he did get injured last year and was not the best after the injury, but before the injury, he was really sticking good. And as Riley Moss, cornerback out of Iowa in the 3rd round. Now, Riley Moss, like I said, rookie year, I'm trying to remember all about the rookie year. I think he had I think he also was injured that year, or he just had a solid season. But in the second season, he started to ball out in that first half of the season where he was paired up with Patrick Surtain the second, who literally won Defensive Player of the Year. Like I said, they had a really good tandem together. However, he got injured, and then when he came back, I don't know if he got rushed back from the injury or what, but it was not good. And so I'm sure that in the 3rd year, he's going to be very good. Like I said, you got Jahdae Barron, who can be your nickel, and um, uh, if Riley Moss needs a little bit of a more time to recover, if he's not fully healthy, you got Jahdae Barron, which I think Riley Moss has worked out in the NFL. As one of the first white corners that we've had, besides Cooper DeJean coming in last year, Riley Moss has done a pretty good job. I'll give him that. And like I said, I also really like Cooper DeJean. Cooper DeJean was my second cornerback last year. So, but yeah, outside of Riley Moss, Marvin Mims is someone who kind of surprised me. He did a much better job than I thought he was going to. Going into 2nd year, so 3rd year he's going to be more involved in the offense. Drew Sanders, Arkansas is a good option. I did like J.L. Skinner, who is just not at all. I mean, he dropped it because of injury, if I remember correctly. I think he dropped in the draft because of injuries. I thought he was going to be a 4th-round pick, ended up being a 6th-round pick. And outside of that, not really anybody else that probably could have taken. Like Marvin Mims right now, I would say probably is the better player than Riley Moss, or more involved. But I think overall did a pretty good job in picking Riley Moss. So next one up is going to be the Detroit Lions, and this was a very interesting draft class to say the least. Their first 4 picks are all impact players, and at the time of the draft, I remember liking the players they selected, didn't like the place they select, but then at the end of the day, they got the players they wanted. So I don't think after that draft, I remember I've kind of gotten to a point where I'm like, if it's a reach by like 10 picks or whatever, who cares? They got the player they wanted. So it's not going to be Jahmyr Gibbs, even though I like Jahmyr Gibbs. Love Jack Campbell. I absolutely loved Sam Laporta. Sam Laporta was my top tight end that year. But I picked Brian Branch because I knew for a fact that Brian Branch was going to work out because watching him all the time at Bama as an Auburn player, as an Auburn fan, he was absolutely he's so diverse. He was basically kind of like what Mika Fitzpatrick was back in the day. So I was like, Mika's worked out in the NFL. Brian Branch going into the right system is going to work out in the NFL. It's because he has versatility to play the nickel, to play safety, and so far he has been an absolute dog for the Lions. I'm surprised that he lasted to the 2nd round, which I mean helps in my case. Like I said, safety in the 2nd round, I mean, it's really worked out for like me picking not just a 1st-round pick. But outside of Brown Branch, I already talked about the three players before him. Hendon Hooker, I wasn't very high on. Broderick Martin. Uh, that's pretty much it. Like I said, as far as like people who are making a little bit of impact, but those first four picks are absolutely like if you have a draft where your first four picks are Pro Bowl players, I mean that's an absolute steal of a draft. But Brian Branch in the second round really worked out as far as like me picking him, and he's more likely going to get absolute paid in his fourth year. So now moving on to the Green Bay Packers. This is another one, kind of like with Mozzie Smith, where I'm hoping in the third year that they develop, um, especially because the Packers didn't really address the position. So I'm hoping that they think that he's going to develop in the third year. But it was always a stretch. And this is who is formerly known as Hercules. That is going to be, I'm going to put it, there we go. Lucas Van Ness, edge from Iowa in the first round. I like Lucas Van Ness because I like there is some potential there. As far as like he had other like dude super duper strong, and like I said, like he had like really good speed, like speed to power. So I was like, okay, him pair with Rashawn Gary, this could be good. He doesn't have to be the guy because Rashawn Gary is the guy. And yeah, it just has not really worked out for Lucas Van Ness so far. But he's a starter. He still has some potential. So you're kind of hoping that he develops in that third year because, like I said, sometimes it just takes players to that third year. But so far, it has not looked the best, considering who they could have taken instead of Lucas Van Ness. But outside Lucas Van Ness, some of the other ones, like I said, Luke Musgrave and Tucker Kraft. Tucker Kraft's been looking really good. Jaden Reed's been pretty good. Colby Wooden, shout out to Auburn. I love him. He's good. He's a good rotational piece in that defensive line. Outside of that, I mean, you got Dontavius Wicks. Goodness gracious. Jaden Reed, Dontavius Wicks, Tucker Kraft, and Luke Musgrave, all of them going to their third year. Carl Brooks, I remember liking him from Bowling Green because he actually played pretty good against Auburn when I was at that game. Um, and also Anders Carlson, kicker from Auburn. Unfortunately, his injury his senior year has really, really messed up his career. Um, and nobody else besides that, like in the seventh round, they have a lot of picks in 2023. Goodness gracious! But I'll probably say I probably could have taken one of the tight ends or Jaden Reed before taking Lucas Van Ness. But like I said, it can still work out going into his third year. Okay, now moving on to the Houston Texans. Now, the Houston Texans, I thought about taking CJ Stroud, but I was like, I feel a lot higher on this other player. So I was going to instead took Will Anderson, defensive end from Bama in the first round. They traded up to get him. Obviously, they loved him, but I thought the world of Will Anderson going into the 2023 class. The fact that they got CJ Stroud and Will Anderson is still kind of wild. But Will Anderson, I knew, was going to be a dominant player because he was dominant at Alabama. Watched him all the time there too. So I was like, he's going to work out, and I feel pretty confident that he's going to pan out. And so far, it absolutely has. Like Will Anderson's been absolutely amazing for the Texans. I could take CJ Stroud as well, and it still would have worked out too. But outside of them, Tank Dell, sleeper guy that I think I had Tank Dell kind of like how I have Jimmy Horn this year, where I was like wide receiver like 8 or 9. No, I think Jimmy Horn had a little bit lower. But like I was like, if they find a role, they could probably work out. And then Tank Dell like absolutely tore up his rookie year. Unfortunately, second year he gets hurt. So he's gonna be gone this year. So hopefully he'll come back for his fourth year, still be good, and then hopefully he can still like have a good contract, have a good NFL career because that injury looks nasty, and I'm hoping that he's gonna be okay. Um, and then here in Toa from Amatu liked him coming out. And then Jared Patterson was okay on. And then Xavier Hutchinson, I was just like, he's like a good, reliable catcher, but that's about it. Um, so not really anything outside of that, but like I said, um I could have taken CJ Stroud and be fine too. Now moving on to the Indianapolis Colts. Now the Colts are interesting because I want to preface this. Anthony Richardson coming out. I didn't pick him. Just saying. But Anthony Richardson coming out was super duper polarizing. And I thought that he had all the talent in the world, but he needed to develop. And unfortunately, he got pushed into the fire. And a lot of Panthers fans, I remember, wanted Anthony Richardson, and I did not. Because I was like, for one, super duper raw. Two, he looks like Cam. People are going to say he's like Cam, and he's not like Cam. And I think that would be super duper hard for him to try to live down if he went to Carolina, because he wouldn't have been able to live to those expectations. And thirdly, because he's all this experience, and because he's not getting a lot, because he's more likely going to be thrust into the role, he's going to have a lot of challenges in the NFL, being a rookie starter, and I don't know if he could get past it. And so far, it hasn't looked the best. I'll say that about Anthony Richardson. It's just we're hopeful. We're hopeful that he can break out to his third year, but it's not looking the best right now. But I didn't pick him. Instead, I picked a wide receiver out of UNC, Josh Downs, in the third round, because Josh Downs was the player that I really wanted the Panthers to take. Because I fell in love with him, because I remember watching him last year, not last year, but the year before with Sam Howell. Did amazing with Sam Howell. And then that year you had Drake May had his first year, and lit it up with Drake May, and I was like, okay, Josh Downs, yeah, he's a little bit smaller, but working out of the slot, working as a Z, I think he would do an amazing job. And so far for the Colts, who have a very crowded wide receiver room, he's been pretty good. So like I would say that I did a pretty good job on picking Josh Downs. Do I think that his role could have been bigger on a different team? Absolutely. But that's just the nature of the game when you have four wide receivers who need targets that are still pretty good. So, but outside of him, see Juju Brents, he was from Kansas State. Remember, he was the bigger corner that I thought would be better as a free safety. Blake Freeland, they're pretty good at taking offensive linemen late. Not really anybody else though for the Indianapolis Colts. So now moving on to the Jacksonville Jaguars. So for Jacksonville, obviously I'm going to be looking at somebody that I feel like can make an immediate impact, someone who's going to be there for a long haul. And that, to me, being an Auburn fan, saw him all 4 years he was at Auburn, did amazing there. It was Tank Bigsby. So Tank Bigsby, running back from Auburn, taken in the third round. So far, he's had a pretty good career. Like I said, rookie year, it was kind of up and down. But this past year, I mean, he basically, I don't want to say overtook Travis Etienne as the number one running back, but like he had a pretty daggum good season. I think he got close. I think he was like 800 something rushing yards. I think he might have got close to 900 something rushing yards. Like I said, really good year. I think that there is some thought in that running back room that we kind of already talked about in the draft sleeper video about the fact that he is pushing for running back one status, and because they didn't pick up Travis Etienne's fifth year option, like Travis Etienne's probably be gone next year. Tank Bigsby will be in his fourth year, so it'd be a prove it deal to be like, okay, can you be the guy? And who knows? Maybe he might be the next guy for the Jacksonville Jaguars. But outside of Tank Bigsby, who could have also taken? There's Anton Harrison. So Anton Harrison, tackle out of Oklahoma. Like I said, I thought he was more developmental, and so far this is kind of hoping to kind of see like some more from him this year into his third year. Like I said, who else? Parker Washington, who's I thought was going to be a good slot receiver from Penn State. So far, like I said, it's not really anything, not a lot of flashes, but like I think that, we're still young, still going into his third year. Who knows? Maybe he might be able to work out. Outside of that, there's not really anybody else from the Jacksonville Jaguars that's really showing that like I could have gone in different directions. So far, I think I hit on Tank Bigsby. Moving on to the Kansas City Chiefs. So the Chiefs is one that I was really high on, and so far has not really worked out. And that's going to be Felix Anudike-Uzomah for the edge from Kansas State in the first round. I thought, okay, he's got good bend, and he had really good pass rush moves. Obviously, also playing for the home team in Kansas City. So I thought he's going to be able to work out really well for them. And so far, it had he hasn't been the difference maker on the edge rusher that we were kind of hoping for. Because obviously they got Karlaftis the year before. I was kind of hoping that, hey, him paired with Karlaftis gives some edge rush help to what already is a good interior when they have Chris Jones. And so far, it just hasn't really been that. And so you're hoping third year, same thing with Lucas Van Ness, you develop. Hopefully, you can be a contributing member on that defense because so far it's just not really been that. So who else could I have taken instead of Felix? Rashee Rice. I was not super duper high on him coming out, and so far he's had a pretty good season for. He has pretty two good seasons for Kansas City. Obviously, he had amazing rookie year, win a Super Bowl last year. The whole he got injured. He also had the offseason issue, so we'll see how that's going to affect this season. But that could probably be a better option. Wayne Morris, I was not super duper high on him coming out. See, B.J. Thompson, I remember B.J. Thompson for Stephen F. Austin. He was an athletic freak. So I don't really think there's anything kind of showing he's going to be a good pass rusher. Keandre Coburn, he was a defensive tackle from Texas who was a good run stopper, I remember. I thought he was good value in the 6th round. But then outside of that, there's not really anybody else that the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm oh yeah, no, absolutely, this is good. You got the Chiefs. Probably could say Rashee Rice, but overall, it's not a huge impact draft for the Kansas City Chiefs. Moving on now to the Las Vegas Raiders. So the Raiders, I took Michael Mayer, tight end out of Notre Dame in the 2nd round. So I remember a lot of people liking him as the number 1 tight end. I had Sam Laporta because Sam Laporta had a lot more receiving ability than Michael Mayer, who Michael Mayer is a good big target, really good, really great blocker. But there's a reason why they took Brock Bowers this past year, and it's worked out. I think it's still a good 2 tight end system. But Michael Mayer, I felt was going to be solid enough to be able to play out his contract, to be able to be a kind of guy that you want to have, just a really solid option, not explosive or anything like that, but just a solid option. And also didn't like the 1st round pick because I remember the 1st round pick was Tyree Wilson, was a defensive end out of Texas Tech who still doesn't make an impact. The fact that Malcolm Kuntz, who I did like for Buffalo, has developed into a pass rusher. And when he got hurt last year, it gave the opportunity for Tyree Wilson, and he didn't seize it. So, I'm still not super high on Tyree Wilson. Hopefully, maybe he might be able to find something, but it's not looking too good. Trey Tucker was also in this draft class in the 3rd round. He's been a solid, speedy option. Aiden O'Connell, like I said, he's had some starts, but it's not really anything oh yay, Aiden O'Connell. So I think overall I did a pretty good job in picking for the Las Vegas Raiders. Now moving on to the LA Chargers. So the Los Angeles Chargers, I like this player as a developmental player, and he had a really good season last year. He's going to be a starter this year on a really good defense, and that's Deion Henley from Washington State in the 3rd round. Now, Deion Henley, if I remember correctly, was from Compton. I'm trying to remember some more of his story, but I really liked his story. I love his dude, so freaking fast, so fast. Love his speed. Love his coverage ability, and he was not afraid of anybody. He would lay the wood. So I was I feel pretty confident this guy's going to develop, and so far he has. It definitely helps that you have. I'm trying to think his first name, but Mentor, the defense coordinator. Finally remember his name. Mentor, the defense coordinator for Michigan, being there. Obviously, that helps Deion Henley. Henley had a pretty good season last year. We think it's going to continue on to this year. So I think I definitely hit on that one. But see who else the Chargers picked? Quentin Johnston. Yeah, like I said, I did not like Quentin Johnston at all. I already said that before. I thought that he kind of caught with his body a little bit too much. And he was definitely a yak player that people wanted to be a jump ball receiver. He had the body of a jump ball receiver, but was more of a yak player, which is interesting for sure. And I didn't really like him. And so far, it has not been good for him in the NFL. But who knows? Maybe in the 3rd year he does break out. But right now looks a little bit unlikely. Tuipulotu, I butchered that last name. Sorry about that. From USC, he's a good solid option. Um, oh, Scott Matlock. I forgot he was in the 6th round, so he is more of their fullback. He's a defense end that was converted to a fullback, and so far has done a pretty good job. And then Max Duggan, who is in the UFL right now as the Battlehawks quarterback. He might still be. I haven't watched a Battlehawks game in about 2 or 3 weeks, but yeah, he was the quarterback that got absolutely blown up by Georgia in the national championship game, so it didn't really surprise me. He was a good college quarterback, which is not it was not bad, but it's he was just good in college. That's it. So I hit on that for getting Dayon Henley. Next one up is going to be not the Chargers, sorry, the Rams. So LA Rams. Um, I think this was the last year of the Jared Goff deal. Yeah, because then the a year afterwards they got Jared Verse. So this is the last year of the Jared Goff deal. Um, I remember I liked this draft as a developmental draft, and I'll talk about it a little more because I liked some of the players they took, and I was like, oh, by year 2 or year 3 they're going to blow off. They're going to blow up. So I took the one that I thought was going to make an immediate impact, and that is Steve Avila, the guard from TCU, he's like done a really good job on the offensive line, um, being able to replace like what they missed in Austin Corbett, who left 2 years before, and then last that year that Steve Avila got there, they just come off of like a really bad offensive line, um, and he did a really good job. He moved into center, did a pretty decent job. I think now he's moving back to guard, and he's been a really solid option. So I think I hit on that. But let's dive deeper because I'm trying to remember all the picks they made because I remember liking them, but thought they were going to be like a 2 to 3 year project. So let's see here. Byron Young, yep, defensive end from Tennessee, not the one that went to the Raiders, but the defensive end from Tennessee because there was 2 Byron Youngs that year. I thought, okay, solid option, great power, um, good, probably gets you like 6 sacks a game, 6 sacks a season, and he developed really quickly. These last couple of years, so love him. Kobe Turner, I wanted to pick Kobe Turner, but I was like, no, he's just gonna be a solid option because I liked him from watching a lot of Wake Forest games because as I will mention, there's a Wake Forest player that I really really loved, almost too much, and the Panthers didn't get him. That was kind of upset. But I watched a lot of Wake Forest games, and then also Brett Coleman on Bootleg Podcast actually had an interview with Kobe Turner, and it made me fall in love with it even more because I was like, this is a good guy to have in your locker room. Not only is he a dominant presence, but he also seems like a great guy. So like you want to kind of have that guy in your locker room, and he has done fantastic for the LA Rams. Obviously, he had 1 year with Aaron Donald, and like he popped off of there. But a lot of people thought, oh, it's just because Aaron Donald is there. And then no, this year he also showed out. No, I'm still good, and he still had like I'm trying to remember how many sacks he had, but he was a dominant presence in the interior, and he has been amazing for the Rams. Stetson Bennett, the mailman from Georgia. No, didn't really like him. Nick Hampton, I was okay on. And then Puka Nacua, that's the one. Okay, so Puka Nacua, I thought, okay, give him 2 or 3 years in this Rams system, he's going to work out because I was like, he has good traits. He just has so many injuries. I was like, I just don't feel super confident with like a lot of those injuries. But I think overall he's a good player. And then he just blew it out of the water. Like I said, he was a great fit for the Rams scheme. He's going to be the number 1 option now, obviously with Cooper Kupp. I mean, he kind of was already the number 1 option, but now he definitely is because Cooper Kupp's gone, but you still have Devontae Adams there, which is going to free him up even more. So Puka Nacua, absolutely dog for the Rams. So he worked out perfectly for them. And then outside of that, not really anybody else. Yeah, so nobody really else for the LA Rams, but I probably could have gone with my gut, but instead I still hit with Steve Villa. He's panned out in the NFL so far, but that Rams draft class was very underrated at the time, and now has proven to be like a huge get for this Rams team. Now moving on to the Miami Dolphins, and for the Dolphins, I picked the Oh, that's right. I picked Devon Achane, the running back from Texas A&M. So I talked about this before. I think I did last year when I was going over Anaya Smith because both him and Devon Achane were these running backs slash wide receivers at Texas A&M that caused a lot of people trouble, especially Bama. That was it, probably about 3 years ago at this point when they beat them on that last second field goal. I remember watching that game and also watching a lot of Texas A&M because obviously SEC football, and I fell in love with both of those players. And so I feel like, okay, well, if they go in the right system, they're gonna work out as far as like being gadget players. And so far, Devon Achane, obviously his rookie year was off the chain before he got injured, but I felt pretty confident that he was going to be able to work out in the NFL because, like I said, I saw it on SEC games. I saw his speed. I saw him being able to catch out of the backfield, and I was like, hey, like he might not be an everyday back, but he can be like your third down option. He can be your change of pace. He can be your kick return, the same as I think for how I felt for Nye Smith, and it hasn't quite worked out for Nye Smith just yet, but it definitely worked out for Devon Achane. So I definitely hit on that one. Um, who? Sorry about that. Let's see who else I could have picked. Cam Smith. I remember Cam Smith out of South Carolina being he was more athletically gifted, but there was still a lot of question marks. I think he was coming off an injury. I'm not for sure, but I remember I was like iffy on him. Um, wow, they did not. They had 4 picks. The Dolphins had 4. I mean, obviously they had to forfeit the first round pick, but 'cause I think that was the Brian Flores thing. I think that was the Brian Flores case that they had to forfeit their first round pick. Because then Pittsburgh ended up taking yeah. So Pittsburgh ended up having that 32nd pick as the first pick of the second round because of the Chase Claypool trade. I'm going off a little bit tangent, but that's still baffling. They only had 4 picks. They had 2 picks. They had a second and a third, and they had a sixth and a seventh. Wow. Okay. Anyways, sorry about that, but that was the Miami Dolphins. Now moving on to the Minnesota Vikings, and I remember liking this player as far as when he was at Pittsburgh the year before, and then he went to USC and balled out there, and that's obviously going to be Jordan Addison, wide receiver out of technically USC, but he was at Pittsburgh in the first round. And he's been a great compliment to Justin Jefferson, if I'm being honest. Like I said, obviously there's the whole speeding thing that happened in the offseason, but he has been absolutely outstanding for them. Really, really good that he got to a spot where he doesn't have to be the guy. He could have been like I liked him as the like Devontae Smith role as far as being a little bit skinnier than what most people were kind of looking for, but being absolutely lethal in route running and being a deep threat. And so far, he's done that for the Minnesota Vikings, taking off some of the pressure from Justin Jefferson and allowing both of them to flourish. So love that pick. Who else I could have taken? Um, Not really anybody else. Like I said, there's Jaron Hall who started 2 games last year. I'm trying to remember if he started 1 or 2 games. No, he started one. It was awful. Um, and nobody else really besides that. Nobody else is really like popping off to me. So really, I hit with Jordan Addison. So I think I'm good there. Now moving on to the Patriots. Let's see here. Oh, that's right. For the Patriots, I ended up taking Christian Gonzalez, the cornerback out of Oregon, because he was absolute lockdown corner. I have no idea why he kept on falling. Like the fact that I'll talk about it in a little bit. The fact that Emmanuel Forbes got taken before Christian Gonzalez. I have no idea why. No idea why. But Christian Gonzalez going to the Patriots, perfect pairing for him. Obviously, when Bill Belichick was there, that was a great pairing. I felt like, okay, you know what, this is gonna be good. Like, he's gonna have some veteran presence. He's already developed like really good corners. Now he already has a really good corner as is. Unfortunately, he got hurt his rookie year. Him and who else got hurt his rookie year? I think it was Matthew Judon also got hurt that rookie year, and it's just like destroyed that defense. But um, really, really great player. Like I said, had a really good this past season. Going into his third year, more than likely is going to get his fifth-year option taken up because the Patriots have a good one, and they're more than likely to pay him by year 4, year 5. So Christian Gonzalez hit on that one. Loved him coming out. I'm trying to remember who else was on the. Oh, Keon White. That was an interesting one. He was an older prospect that was coming out of Georgia Tech. Um, I think he went to the NFL draft and then he didn't get picked in the first round. But he's had a pretty. He's so far he was good last year. I think. No, he's definitely a starter. So hopefully he'll be able to continue this next season. Um, Jake Andrews. Oh, Chad Ryland. Oh, there's one in the fourth round. Wow, I forgot about he can go in the fourth round. Is he on the? I think he's on the Cardinals now. Not the best. Kayshawn Booty from LSU. He was a very very talented player from LSU, but he had I remember him coming out had a lot of character concerns that caused him to fall down. So far, it's not really been necessarily the best, but then again, like the wide receiver room for the Patriots has not been good at all. Speaking of wide receiver, Demario Douglas from Liberty, much more of a what's the word I'm looking for? He was kind of like just uh, not a jack of all trades, not the one I'm looking for, but he was basically a gadget player. Goodness gracious, gadget player. And I think that he might be able to find a role in Josh McDaniel's system, so maybe that might be able to work out. And then outside of that, not really anybody that is really sticking out to me. So obviously, hit on Christian Gonzalez. Now moving on to the New Orleans Saints. So the Saints, that's okay. So watching Wake Forest, they were a very good team. This is when Sam Hartman was on there before he went to Notre Dame. And they had this one play they would run all the freaking time, and it was like this play action pass where they would just hold the draw for so long, and then Sam Hartman would just throw it up to A.T. Perry. A.T. Perry was a wide receiver from Wake Forest that got drafted by the Saints in the sixth round. Now, yes, I probably shouldn't have staked my claim on, okay, this guy's going to work out in the sixth round. But, dude, I wanted him to go to the Panthers so badly. I couldn't understand why he fell so far. Now I think I just overvalued him a lot. He had great jump ball ability. And I thought, okay, well, the Saints lost Michael Thomas. They need a bigger body wide receiver to begin with. And I thought he was going to work out for the Saints. And obviously, he is not. I think he's on his third team in just 2 years. Because I remember I think he was on the Broncos. And then now he's on another team, I think. But yeah, they didn't quite work out. So let's see who I could have taken. Because obviously, this was a miss. Who could I have taken instead? Brian Brzee was not very high on him. I remember he was super duper hyped up, and I just couldn't get behind Brian Brzee. But maybe he works out this year, going to third year. Isaiah Foskey, not really Notre Dame. Keandre Miller thought he was better Ole Miss, and then he didn't have the best season. I think he had a decent season at TCU, but I just wasn't very confident. Nick Saldivari from Old Dominion. I think he is. I'm trying to think where he's slated to. I think he was supposed to be the left guard, and then now with him taking a tackle in the first round, I think they're going to try to put Penning at left guard. But I think he has a good option as far as being a backup. Jake Hayner, quarterback from Fresno State in the fourth round, more known for his photo shoot. I just remember him in. I'm trying to think. I think it was the Fresno State versus UCLA, where I kind of started to like him. Where he got absolutely just hammered like that whole entire game, and he was like looking like he was injured and just kept playing through. And I was like, he's tough. And I was like, so that's why I think I remember I kind of liked him, but he was just more of a backup role. And yeah, it's pretty much been that case. And then yeah, no, nobody really kind of standing out so far for the Saints draft. I mean, it's kind of been kind of mid. Not gonna lie. So I still missed on A.T. Perry, but it's not there like there's a lot of different options. So at least there's that. Now moving on to the New York Giants. The Giants, I picked. Who did I pick for the Giants? I can't remember some of the times. Oh yeah, I picked Deontay Banks, cornerback from Maryland. I didn't even like Deontay Banks, but I still remember out of the draft. I haven't looked at it yet, but I know Jalen Hyde. I know I didn't like Jalen Hyde, so I'll talk about that. But there wasn't a lot of people that I liked from the Giants draft. So I was like, okay, they take a first round pick. A lot of people like Deontay Banks. I was like, he might be able to work in the NFL. And you know what? Maybe he still might. He still might. Like I said, he's not going to be a cornerback one. He'll be a cornerback two. Paulson Debo can take on the cornerback one responsibility. So maybe that might free up Deontay Banks. But his attitude has just not been good at all. Like, I mean, you've seen him quit on a couple of different plays, and also the fact that, like, just get absolutely just obliterated in the run game sometimes. So, like, that's obviously a red flag. So if I remember correctly, I didn't like the rest of the Giants draft. So it's definitely a miss. Definitely a miss. Might have some room to grow, but let's see if anybody else, besides I know for sure John Hyatt, I could have picked for the Giants. Um, John Michael Schmitz, center from Minnesota. If I remember correctly, he's been kind of injured the last couple of years, so maybe he might be good, but I don't feel super confident that. John Hyatt, like I already talked about before, he was more of like that speedy option that I didn't really like. But I remember so many people were like swearing by John Hyatt, like, no, dude, like he's gonna work out in the NFL. I'm like, I just don't feel super confident in that. Eric Gray, running back out of Oklahoma, not really. Um, yeah, nobody else really in this draft has really popped off. Like I said, I maybe John Michael Schmitz has a little bit better of especially because they need offensive linemen. So hopefully he can be able to get better this season after his injury. If I remember correctly, just injury-ridden seasons. But yeah, that's another bad draft. So moving on to the Jets, I picked Will McDonald. Oh, dude, Will McDonald, edge out of Iowa State. Watching Will McDonald and the Iowa State system was so frustrating because Will McDonald was like 6'3", 6'4", but like 240. Okay, 240 as a 4-eye. Like they had this. I remember correctly. It was them and like Tulsa would have this like 3-3 or like weird defense. I think it was a 3-3, which is like fine if you have the right people for it. But basically, you can't keep having a guy who's 243 playing a 4-eye and regularly trying to like take on double teams. And he would, like I said, dude, like showed out as a very, very small individual, considering for the actual position. And I was like, if you kick him outside, he's shown he has a spin move. He's shown obviously he has the play strength. Obviously he can go speed to power. So I was like, I feel pretty confident he's going to work out in the NFL. And so far for the Jets, that he's been a hit. Like I said, they have him. They got Jermaine Johnson that year, the same as that year. They got Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson, if I remember, because it was three first round picks. And then who else they added? I don't know, but not Will Johnson. Will McDonald has been really good in the NFL so far. So I would say that's definitely a hit. And I'm trying to think who else before I look. I can't remember anybody off the top of my head for the New York Giants, but no, New York Jets. But Will McDonald definitely been a hit. So who else could I have taken instead? Joe Tippmann, center from Wisconsin. So he is. They've invested in the offensive line, especially like rookie contracts for the Jets. So let's see if they can be able to work out. Um, Israel Benekanda. I remember him for Pittsburgh because obviously watched a little bit of Pittsburgh. And then also he was on Hard Knocks as well. I think was he the one? He was the one that got injured. I like hurt his knee. Um, don't really know if he's going to be good, but I remember kind of liking. I remember liking his personality because I think there was an interview that I also saw from him. And then also, that's right, Zach Kuntz from Old Dominion. Remember him? Very very athletic tight end that I was like has potential as far as being developmental. I don't think he's really done anything so far. Obviously, he's a 7th round pick. I don't even know if he's still on the team, but yeah, I don't really think anybody else I could have taken. Like, so Will McDonald's been perfectly fine. So we love Will McDonald. Now moving on to the Eagles, and I I do remember I didn't take Jalen Carter for a couple of reasons. One, I felt like it was cheating because Jalen Carter was like he should have easily been a top 3 pick. He was that good, especially coming out of Georgia. But obviously, character concerns and all that kind of stuff definitely dampered a little bit. So I could have picked him, but I decided not to because, like I said, I thought I was cheating. And also, like, because of the issue that he came out of Georgia with, there is like that slight hit where you're like, I don't know if I want to put everything on that guy, and that's what happened with a lot of GMs. Is just like, if he gets the right system, then he should be fine. Uh, and so far for Philadelphia, he's been absolutely amazing. So I just want to put that the reason why I didn't put him down, because I love Jalen Carter. Honestly, I wanted him to go to the Panthers, but obviously earlier on in the process, before we actually went over wide receiver, after we went for Bryce Young, I wanted Jalen Carter to pair with Derek Brown, because that would have been, oh my gosh, that would have been disgusting. But we ended up getting Bryce Young, which I'm very happy for, because we got our future franchise quarterback. Anyways, talking about the actual Philadelphia Eagles, who actually picked. I feel that I was a little bit like betting on him when other people weren't, and that's Nolan Smith from Georgia. Also, obviously, watched him a lot while playing with Jalen Carter and also Jordan Davis. Like I said, he was an absolute game wrecker there. Undersized, for sure. But the Eagles also had Hassan Reddick. So I felt like, okay, well, obviously they know how to use him because they have Hassan Reddick, so they know how to use Nolan Smith. And I felt that he could be a replacement, an eventual replacement, which basically he did pretty early, like actually in the second year. And he's developed really good. Like I said, had a really good Super Bowl, had a really good like late end of the season. So hopefully he continues on that, because before then he not saying that he proved the doubters wrong, but he just didn't have like those big game changing kind of things that you normally see in first round picks. So far it's worked out. So I'll say this definitely hit, but there's still more room to grow. Like I said, I'm just kind of hoping that in that third season he has a full season of being an actual game wrecker. But yeah, Nolan Smith, edge from Georgia. So obviously I could have picked Jalen Carter. See who else I could have picked. Tyler Steen from Alabama tackle, who's I think supposed to be the right guard, or he's like the backup right guard right now. Very solid option. Sidney Brown, so the other Brown twin from Illinois, safety from Illinois. Kelly Ringo, I remember Kelly Ringo from Georgia. Bigger physical corner, but I just didn't feel very, very confident in him. Even though I think he was the one that had the pick 6 against Bryce Young in the national championship, if I remember correctly. But I wasn't very confident. Tanner McKee, the 6th round for Stanford, had a was it 2 games that he played last year at the tail end of the season when Jalen Hurts was recovering off of his injury, and he's been pretty good. And then Moro Jomo from Texas, he's the other one who I'm hoping I get both of them mixed up. But he was also a good run stuffer. I'm just not the biggest on him, and I think he's supposed to be slated to start as like the other edge rusher replacing Milton Williams. I hope not. I think that they'll go in a different direction than that. But yeah, like I said, I could take Jalen Carter, but I feel pretty confident. I'm going to have a hit with taking Nolan Smith. Next one is going to be the Steelers. So Pittsburgh Steelers. Loved this guy. Absolutely love this guy. Same as like him and Kobe Turner both loved him, and that's gonna be Keanu Benton, who's a nose tackle out of Wisconsin in the second round. Keanu Benton, absolute game record when he's on Wisconsin. Like I said, like nobody could really block him as a nose. And so I was like, okay, him could be paired with Cameron Hayward. It's gonna work out really well for him. And it definitely has. Like I said, Cameron Hayward's getting a lot of attention, even at his old age, kind of freeing up Keanu Benton. And then now he's going to have Derek Harmon is going to help him out as well. So like I said, he's going to be another game wrecker as well. So that's been a great pick for me, I would say for me. Like I said, I remember in that defensive tackle class, like obviously Jalen Carter, number 1. And then I had Kobe Turner. I think I had him as a tier 2. And then also Keanu Benton as a tier 2. Because I was like, they have a specific role and they can fit that role. and they definitely fit that role in the NFL so far. But Keanu Benton, loved him from Wisconsin. So I could have taken Broderick Jones, who I did like as well. Hopefully, he'll be able to develop more in his third year. So far, it's been more of like an up and down kind of trajectory, but maybe he might be able to work out. He's an athletic freak for sure. Joey Porter Jr. from Penn State, liked him as well, but like I said, like Keanu Benton a little bit more. Darnell Washington was like some of the best. I would probably say he's the best blocking tight end that I've seen, which fits a role for sure. So, you know, and so far he's just basically been that. Nick Herbig, dude, I remember liking Nick Herbig because I thought we were going to take him in like the third round, but no, we traded up and got DJ Johnson instead. Because we took Nick Herbig on a top 30 visit, and we still didn't pick him. Instead, we took DJ Johnson, and Nick Herbig could have fit the same exact role, being basically a rotational piece in the pass rush, and we didn't take him. But anyways. And then Corey Trice. Oh, Corey Trice was the one too. Corey Trice, I remember I didn't know who he was until Brett Coleman talked about him. And then I actually looked at Purdue because I'm not really looking at Purdue's games. And I was intrigued. And it's still early in the career, but it's just not looking too good. I mean, like he's a 7th round pick for a reason. But yeah, I think out of that draft class, which is still a pretty good draft class, I think I hit pretty well on Keanu Benton. Like I said, he fits that nose tackle role so perfectly for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now moving on to the 49ers. So let's see here. Okay, yeah. Okay. Uh, for the 49ers, I thought this player would work out for them, and maybe he still might. But his first 2 seasons are not looking the best. And that is Jake Moody, the kicker out of Michigan, in the 3rd round. Took a kicker in the 3rd round. So Chad Ryland, which is the 4th round for the Patriots. But yeah, Jake Moody has, if I remember correctly, I think he missed 10 field goals last year. And a lot of them were in crucial moments. So it's just not looking the best. But you never know. You never know. Like I said, 3rd round pick is a high investment for a kicker. I haven't looked at it yet, but I think this was this the last year of the Trey Lance trade? I think this was the last year of the Trey Lance trade because the Trey Lance trade was 2022 and 2023 was the back end of it. I think. Anyways. So I don't think there was a lot of good picks, but I might be wrong. So let me check and see. See. Jair Brown, Penn State. Don't really remember that much about him. Oh, Cameron Latu. I remember him from Bama. He was a solid option at Bama, but I didn't feel like he was going to work on the NFL. There really has not anybody at all for the 49ers. Ronnie Bell, maybe, but I would say out of the people taken, Jake Moody's probably the best one. So it's definitely a miss, but there's not a lot of people that I possibly could have taken. Anyways, moving on to the Seahawks. Okay, so Seahawks. This guy I really liked as far as being a 3rd wide receiver. That's going to be JSN. So I felt that from Ohio State, obviously it's going to work out because like you've seen it time and time again. Iowa State wide receiver comes to the NFL, he works out. So I felt like he had a really great route running ability. Could be that slot Z player in his first couple of years because you already had DK, you already had Tyler Lockett. So I said that's a great pairing. Still like Devon Witherspoon, which I remember going top 5. Absolutely dogging nickel and being a great man corner. But like I said, I really felt like, oh no, JSN, he's really going to work out. And so far, it's looking pretty good for JSN in Seattle. Obviously, they let DK go, they let Tyler Lockett go. They bring in Cooper Kupp, but it's pretty much just JSN who's going to be the main guy for that system because who knows how long Cooper Kupp is going to be able to be healthy. But JSN's worked out pretty well. And then now who else? I mean, Jack Smith and Jigga, in case anybody knows. Most people know him by JSN, but still. Who could have taken instead? Obviously, talk about Devon Witherspoon, been amazing. Oh, Derek Hall. That's right. Derek Hall from Auburn. Loved him as well. Dude absolutely worked Evan Neal in that Iron Bowl. And that's when I really started to not like Evan Neal because initially I was like, oh, Evan Neal, like he's gonna be a good prospect, and then no, Evans got worked with speed, and I was like, okay, he just cannot handle speed to save his life. But Derek Hall's been pretty good, really good rotational piece for the Seattle Seahawks. Zach Charbonnet, I remember running back out of UCLA, underrated, really good too. Like I said, really good pairing with him and Kenneth Walker. Anthony Bradford, not good, absolutely not good. From LSU. Olu, yes, Olu. I'm not gonna be able to spell his last name. Olu Watimi. I probably butchered that, but center out of Michigan, dude. I really liked him coming out. I thought he was very underrated, and so far hasn't been good. But I think it's just also bad guard play definitely didn't help him. Now you get Gray Zabel, so maybe that might be able to work out for him. Like I said, I'm hoping that it works out because I felt pretty confident that he had good play strength. He was on Michigan's offensive line that was really good that year too. So obviously being a leader on the offensive line definitely helps. Maybe it might not work out, but then again, he was a 5th-round pick for a reason. So, but I'm hoping that he works out. Hoping he does. Then outside of that, not really anybody else. So I definitely hit on JSN. Could have taken Devon Witherspoon, but definitely worked on JSN. Now moving on to who else I got? Tampa Bay. That's right, Tampa Bay. So I got last two. All right, so Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I picked Yaya Diaby. That's right, Yaya Diaby, edge rusher from Louisville in the 3rd round. It was him and there's another edge rusher. It's like Abdul Yasir. I think that was his last name. I probably messed that up. But there was 2 edge rushers from Louisville, and Yaya Diaby was more of like the more diverse one who you could definitely drop it back in coverage. And I felt like, okay, well, he's a great pass rusher. He has the speed to be able to have a good pursuit as well. He showed on tape, and he can be able to cover. I was like, okay, well then I feel like in Tampa Bay's system, obviously with Todd Bowles, regardless of what you feel about Todd Bowles, on defense, I feel like that was a good weapon for them. And so far, like I said, he had a pretty good season last year. Obviously, they needed more help. Their edge rush was not necessarily the best, but I think that's just like he didn't have that much help. Now he has Christian Braswell in his 2nd year. You just talked about him before. Was at Philly? Can't remember his name for why am I blanking on names? Anyways, started the year for the Jets, and now he's on the Buccaneers. And then who else do they got? I can't remember who else they got, but still, Yaya Diaby's been pretty good. I would say it's not necessarily a hit. It's been more of just like, But like I said, in the 3rd round, I felt pretty confident he's going to work out. And I know who the 1st round pick is, so I'll talk about him first. But let's look at who I possibly could have taken. Kalijah Kancey. So Kalijah Kancey, the 1st round. I liked him, but I remember that I think the narrative around him made me not like him as much that I probably should have, because everyone was comparing him to Aaron Donald, and I felt that was way too high of a comparison, and almost to the point where like I started to hate that comparison, and by proxy almost like just not hating him, but like I was like, oh, he's not that good, and then that kind of turned me off on him compared to other players in the draft. Like I said, I liked him, really great disruptor, but he was nowhere near as strong as Aaron Donald. He's been a really great player for Tampa Bay, which sucks for sure. But I just remember like that year I was like stop comparing him to Aaron Donald, and that just made me frustrated. But a really great player for Buccaneers, and also like per my rule, I can't pick that many first rounders. And I'll talk about who all, like how many I picked in the first, second, third, and whatever. But didn't take him. Cody Monk, guard at North Dakota State. He was the one with missing the teeth. I remember the redhead. Yeah. Great run blocker, but he's been okay in the NFL. Obviously, it helped that he had a better center play this season with Graham Barton. So he can still be good. Let's talk about Yaya Diaby. Trey Palmer from Nebraska. He's been okay. But outside of that, it's not really anything. So, like, definitely could take Kalijah Kancey instead, but I think I still hit with Yaya Diaby as far as it being a pretty good pick in the third round. Good. So sorry, Titans and then Commanders. So Titans, I picked. Oh, that's right. Peter Skoronski, guard out of Northwestern, the first. So I talked about it a little bit this year with Will Campbell, as far as like Will Campbell, short arms, but I feel like he can still play tackle. Peter Skoronski, same exact ordeal. I mean, he was coming off. I think I remember correctly. I think it's like the year after Rashawn Slater was drafted. I love Rashawn Slater as well. Both of them were from Northwestern, shorter arms, and still did well at tackle. But obviously, there was that concern if they're going to be able to transition in the NFL. I felt Rashawn Slater could be a tackle. I felt Will Campbell could be a tackle. But I don't know why I felt this way about Peter Skoronski. That was different than the other two. But I felt like he was going to be a better guard. And so far for Tennessee Titans, he's been absolutely amazing for them. And then now they have, they've invested a lot in their offensive line, and it's looking like it could be potentially, if it all works out, a very good young offensive line that's going to be paired up with a young talent in Cam Ward. So hopefully they'll be able to protect him. And I think that did a pretty good job on picking on Peter Skoronski. I mean, obviously it's a top, 15 pick or something like that. But Peter Skoronski's worked out in the NFL so far. It was 11 pick, sorry. But really great, really good for him. Will Levis, I remember not liking Will Levis at all. He was too much of a Carson Wentz for me. Like, being an older prospect, not really taking care. I'm not saying not taking care of himself, but he would put himself in situations where, like, there was one game against Ole Miss where, like, he could have avoided injury, and he just tried to, like, barrel through on a senseless play that made him almost like a stinger or something like that. And just very concerning. Like, everyone talked about his amazing arm, which he did have, but up there, I was just like, I'm not changing that at all. So that was one. Tajay Spears, Tulane, loved him coming out because, like, him and Dorian Williams, both of them were on that Tulane team that beat USC, and I was like, this Tajay Spears guy is absolutely just carving up USC's defense, which, I mean, USC's defense wasn't very good that year, but he was really good. I felt like, okay, a little bit change of pace back, because he was maybe paired up with Derrick Henry that year. See who else they took. Nobody really else. So, like, I definitely hit on Peter Skoronski. I could have hit Tajay Spears, but I think I think that's still good, taking Peter Skoronski. So the last one, oh wow, okay. So the last one for the Washington Commanders, I really, really, really like this player, and one of the Panthers content creators that I watch, PNP, Panther Nation podcast, they would do like some of the draft simulators or some of the other content creators. And in one of them in particular, I pushed for Ricky Strongberg in the third round from Arkansas. As a center from Arkansas who was really, really good. Really, really good in college. Like, as far as like being great play strength, great awareness, had a really good size. I think he was like 6'5", 3 something. And I was like, this is gonna be like a Frank Ragnow. I was like, he's gonna be really good, guys. He's gonna be really good. And yeah, it has not been good in the NFL, unfortunately for him. I don't even know if he's on the team anymore. Let me just double check and make sure. Is Ricky Stromberg still on? Oh no, he's on the Bears now. Yeah, he's no longer on the Washington Commanders. Hopefully he can work out in the NFL because I really like Ricky Stromberg. So that's definitely a miss. on my part. I already know who their first round pick is. I talked about Emmanuel Forbes. There was no reason, there was no way I was taking Emmanuel Forbes. I did not understand why people liked him so much. I guess it was because of the pick sixes, but yeah, no, I can already remember that I did not like this Kamara's draft outside of Ricky Stromberg, and it didn't work out there. So who else could I've taken? Quan Martin. Oh, he's other Illinois safety. Okay. Braden Daniels, don't remember. KJ Henry, he was like, it was him and Miles Murphy, and both of them were not good. Christian Rodriguez from Kentucky, I remember him because it was him and Cavassier Smoke, who Cavassier Smoke ended up going to Colorado that next year. And also you had Lynn Bowden. I think there's a lot of Kentucky players that I'm trying to remember. Like Lynn Bowden was more like a wide receiver slash running back, and then became the quarterback that year. Like there was a whole ordeal. Anyways. But Christian Rodriguez thought he was just solid, but he hasn't really been anything for the Commanders. And yeah, that's it. So it was not a very good draft class. I don't know if it'd be one of the worst ones that I've seen, but it's definitely up there. But Ricky Strong just has, unfortunately, was not good for the Commanders. But overall, I think that I did a pretty good job as far as like picking these players. So as far as like per my rules, like obviously less than 50% first rounders, I had 15 first rounders. More third round picks and second round picks. I had 5 second round picks and I had 9 third round picks. And I also had 1 pick in the fourth, 1 pick in the fifth, and 1 pick in the sixth. And that fourth was Roshan Johnson. Fifth one was Chase Brown, and the sixth one was A.T. Perry. So yeah, that's the video, that idea that I had way before I even made the channel. And I was like, because I was really considering it to make an NFL channel, but I was like, I don't want to do it right before the draft. I want to give myself some time of like, really finding my footing. And yeah, so this is the NFL channel, right? The YouTube channel right now, and right now I'm pushing 250. I don't really have any other social media that kind of push it, and so I'm so thankful for y'all to being here. Obviously, you've seen that I changed my clothing, changed mid video, because it's graduation for me, and also Mother's Day. So like, kind of been a little bit busy this weekend and trying to get the video together. But thanks so much for watching. If you have any comments about the 2023 draft, or even this past draft we just have, or anything else, I would love to hear in the comments below. As always, I enjoy seeing your responses and also making responses myself. So thanks so much for watching. This was a very, very long video. So thank you for staying until the end if you did. And I'll see you in the next one.